We'll call to order the New Ulm Tree Advisory Commission meeting on March 3rd. And we'll begin with roll call. Welcome to our guests, commissioners and advisors. Please introduce yourself, starting with Tom Schmitz.
Tom Schmitz, Park and Recreation Department.
Joe Stein, I'm city engineer.
Greg Dearson, Chair.
Tom Romaine, Commissioner.
Taylor Shank, Commissioner.
Jeff Huffman, Public Works Superintendent.
I'll seek on approval for our agenda today.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Romaine.
Second.
We've got lost your last name, Tyler, sorry.
Shank.
Commissioner Shank with a second, so we've got to look to approve that by all. All in favor, say aye.
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 So approved. And then we'll take a look at our previous meetings from January 7th. Give you an opportunity to read those, reread those if you need to.
Mr. Chair, I would motion or move that we accept the minutes of the January meeting.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to approve the January meeting minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion is approved. Into our old business, 5.1, city reimbursement programs and budget update from the engineering department. Joe?
Mr. Chair, commission members, within your packet there was the reimbursement program and budget update. The budget amount for 2022 is at $7,000 amount. We rolled the home show information or the home show amounts into the diseased tree reimbursement program as directed at the last meeting, and the 2021 carryover was approved by the city council, and that those funds were placed into the disease and boulevard tree reimbursement program as well. So unused amounts are as stated within the packet, and we've had 3 reimbursements paid out at $371.34. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Seeing no questions, we'll move to 5.2 with the budget.
Yeah, as be all the, I guess I kind of lumped everything into that last item, so I don't have any further updates on the budget.
5.3 would be the Public Utilities Commission update. Derek Nelson. Tom, any word from him on the day?
No, Chair Dearson and Commissioners, we have no update at this meeting from the Public Utilities Commission.
Then the 5.4, the Emerald Ash Borer EAB update from John Nisley or Joe.
Mr. Chair, commission members, no updates at this time. We're kind of status quo from the last meeting. We're have a contract, just waiting for the contractor to schedule the work.
And that'll pick up by our, probably, some action will happen then between now and the May meeting.
I think they were scheduled to do their work, I don't know if it was this spring, I think October in the fall, yeah. Because we still have to go out for bids for the replants, so we know how many trees we can take to make full use of that $100,000 grant from the DNR, so.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're just not really in the rush right now to get that package out since we have some time, so. And John will be working on that again.
The Public Works Department did remove 15 trees off of city property going up 10 South Hill between Payne Street and Summit. We took those down last week and we finished up yesterday with the last 2, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one I heard. I've heard comments about some of those dead trees coming up 10th. So good timing on that too.
Ash trees and needed to be removed.
Yeah, they were in very poor shape.
Okay. Then 5.5, any update from, last time we heard from Jordy Veet and U of Minnesota covered up. Ellen, any update or buckthorn work that you've worked on recently?
Well, it's been a little, once it froze and it's been awful cold to go out and saw. The problems with the buckthorn removal is still remains quarter of the bike trail is owned by private property, private owner, and is not interested in selling, and we do not have permission to trespass, so there's buried trees, female trees on a quarter of the bike trail, which is distressing. We have identified the worst invasive species, garlic mustard, anyway, garlic mustard and Canada thistle, etc., and have been trying to spray them. But I don't know, are we not able to use herbicides now, the volunteers? Is that a new thing? No, I can go in there and use a little Roundup judiciously.
Yes, Commissioner Vancura, we're continuing to expect a normal buckthorn removal year this year with you and your forces, both volunteer and paid, and we're very excited to see what kind of priorities we want to target this year in '22. I'm quite certain we have some support from the Park and Rec Department on any park areas and trail areas. Public Works has been helpful when needed in the past, so might be appropriate for us to get together and sit down and talk about 22 plans this year. But we still have the weed wrenches, and we've had some successes in some areas, and we still have some more buckthorn to remove on publicly owned lands, and we still have this challenge on private property.
With the moving into the new rec center, we used to have the dabbers available, and I haven't ordered any lately. Do you know where they're stored?
Yes, they're still at the recreation center. We are selling for retail the herbicide dabbers.
And the
Yes,
refills, the caps and the.
yes, we
and
have those,
The little,
the daubers
yeah,
and
the new, they wear out.
the dye, yeah, also on the tip ends.
Tip ends, yeah, right, okay. And I've been, working primarily on Kraft Foods. They property, which is huge. It had a huge amount of buried trees, and the birds don't respect the Kraft property. So I think the last day I worked was November 4th before it started to get too cold, etc. And really made a lot of progress, and Kraft is removing everything gratis, so they do take it to the compost pile. So when the spring comes now, as soon as the weather's good, I'll resume in the Kraft property. That's really a huge amount of female buckthorn to get out of the city. So working on it. If anybody knows of a spot, I've still never had the time to go around and say, oh, I've got permission from this, just to hang a little thing on the doors of the people that have buckthorn trees in their front and backyard. I do cruise the alley sometimes. So anyway, that's my update.
Yeah, and I might
And we
suggest.
did, Tom, Romaine, and I think we did have a special meeting with invasives, and Amber Maple's been taken out of the list of recommended planted trees. Is that right, Tom? Is that what we did? Remember that special we met with?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Didn't, we had that special meeting with Tom and, about Amber Maple, or, we took Amber Maple out of the list of recommended trees to plant in place of buckthorn.
Has that been a change in the,
Yeah,
the, you know,
Yeah.
the list of species that the tree has, pardon me, the city has are for boulevard plantings. You know, I'm not aware of any list of species that you can't plant,
on city property.
well, on private or
Oh,
public.
well, we don't have any control over private property, but city property.
I
We're
don't
not
know
going to
that
put-
there's a list of things that we can't plant on city property.
Shoot, I just don't recall that. Do you recall that meeting, Tom?
Yes, the three of us did meet at the Recreation Center.
My thoughts on Auburn Maple are that, as I remember what it says in the state list of special concern non-native species, it says that
It shouldn't be planted within
Auburn
50.
maple should only be planted if you planted someplace that's going to be mowed. And-
Yeah, it's
and
50 within
like
50
100
yards
feet
of
to keep it
spreading,
from spreading, yes.
right? Jordy's not here. Jordy's got a plot, and I think the last update I talked to him was that his grasses, of course, are the grasses. I don't know what are the best thing to prevent buckthorn seeding. So. And I'm, pulling sprouts and pulling small things, small buckthorn, and sawing down the large. So,
Okay. Thank you, Ellen.
yep, you're welcome.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
A point of information, where we were on trying to craft some guidelines for the city-owned lands was that the next step we were going to take after the meeting that we had at the Recreation Center was to delineate the tracts of city-administered land, city-owned land in the city, and I was going to work with John Nisley on that, but his time got kind of soaked up by the change in the planning and zoning ordinance. So I'm hoping that things open up for him again and we can continue on that.
And I think that project, once we get moving on it, it'll take a little while, but
Yeah.
it's also
Well,
important.
I would think that given what the GIS system in the city, it would be a fairly easy task to delineate what's city-owned and what's city-administered. So,
Okay.
and the interesting part would be who in the city is responsible for that city-owned land.
Yeah, which department?
Yeah.
Well, we'll continue that work. Thank you.
I'd like to, just one comment, too. Private property owners have been stellar in removing their own buckthorn, and one is MLC. And years, I don't know how many years ago, I went to this student council, and I think they're keeping it out of their property on an ongoing basis. And the other is the homeowners at the base of, again, from Summit to Payne Street. They have taken out, on the hill there, they have taken out a lot of buckthorn. So.
Okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
welcome.
5.6 is the utility billing informational insert, and we're up for April. One side of that is actually going to be taken care of by the 5.7, the Kentucky coffee tree, or the species for 2022 to identify the largest tree.
Yeah, hickory, the big tree contest.
Will be hickory. So I'll work with John Nisley with that. Is the blank side or the flip side of that paper, that insert, hasn't been declared yet? Would that be a good time to remind that those weed wrenches or those buckthorn wrenches are available at the rec center?
Yeah, Chair Dearson and Commissioners, I highly recommend that the back side of that flyer include buckthorn information, the city reimbursement programs, certainly those types of things. And then, of course, spring and summer tree topics. So we should put that together
Okay.
with ideas in the next
Week or two.
week or two. And then we'll start to get that formatted and, we've got to get it printed, 6,500 copies printed, two-sided. So
Okay.
if you would consider taking a lead on that to help us draft that side 2,
Yeah.
we will take care of side 1, which is the big tree contest.
And the winner is the Bolden, Jackie Bolden.
That was last year.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, that was okay, and for 22, that'll be, okay.
So that'll be the one side announcement is the description of the big tree contest. And then the flip side, well, I'll work with you on that and then with John Nisley. But I think that's important now that you're in that new facility and maybe
Yes.
even down to which way they go once they're in there or
Yes.
the return process.
Correct, and if people would like assistance, we've got a great volunteer team led by Alan Van Kira, and we've got other support mechanisms to assist with removing buckthorn in the community.
Okay. Since we addressed 5.7 already, we'll move on from there into new business.
I'm sorry, one more.
Oh, question?
Yeah, one more point. There's one paid volunteer, one paid person that has permission to remove buckthorn on an hourly rate, and that has been Brenda
Longworth.
Longworth. Brenda Longworth has had a career change. She's no longer with Lake Crystal and with District 88. She is self-employed by a nationwide program where she works 8 hours a day from home for anybody in the country that needs sign language support. So she is not available anymore, like after school. And I think she's maybe going to be, I don't know if she works 6, but anyway, she'll be able to put in fewer hours, I think, but might still be interested in, although she's going to work summers now. I'm not sure how much she's going to be interested in working, but I'll talk to her.
Yes, we'll
Yes,
work
ma'am.
on that.
Yeah, well, I'll be in contact with Brenda.
Okay. To that new business, 6.1, and Tom, there was a document up before
Yes.
describing this 2250 North Broadway natural vegetation management request.
Yes, thank you, Chair Dearson and Commissioners. We have some enthusiasts, the pollinator park enthusiasts and a few others have an interest in seeing native and natural vegetation management practices in place in more areas on the city-owned land there at North Broadway. And so this proposal is before you and will go to the Park and Rec Commission a week from Monday on the 14th. And, there's really no cost to that. There's a lot of effort that the volunteer groups have put together. I'll bring up on the map here. I think we're all familiar with this area. The pollinator park is right here where my cursor is, the bike trail, 23rd North, and then Broadway, Trolloc Estates. All of these parcels over here are city-owned parcels, including the parcel that the pollinator park is on over here. Okay, and then we go down towards, the river. So certainly we're not going to, that's the request, and the proposal is to expand pollinator-friendly native vegetation management practices on the existing city-owned land out there in this vicinity at no projected cost to the city or the taxpayer. And it'll be done over time with removal of exotic invasive species, including, I think it's Siberian elm. There's a few tree species out there.
Tartarian honeysuckle is the
Yeah.
other one that's just loves to be friends with buckthorn. So I cut down all the Tartarian honeysuckle along with that. That's just as bad as buckthorn.
Yes.
And I removed, the reason I don't bring it up is because I forgot to mention that I always take the Tartarian honeysuckle, but I took Tartarian honeysuckle out of the pollinator park.
Yes, that's
So,
also found out
Yeah,
here. Yes.
so Deb Steinberg?
Yes, Deb Steinberg and Joe Gartner and Julie Gartner are three of the key volunteers out there.
right.
None of them were able to attend this meeting here today.
Right.
But that is the request before you. Staff supports that. And it's a pretty simple statement as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and the golf course has been good at allowing take it out, although it's Flandreau Park, and we no longer can go into Flandreau Park, which is bad.
So this would be the recommended motion from staff. If there's any questions or comments from the commissioners?
I'll look for that motion from the commissioners.
So move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Otherwise, I'll call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll pass that motion and really approve that work.
Whoa. I am opposed.
Oh, sorry.
Just so I'm on the record.
Sorry. I'll back up. Any opposition, say aye. And then you can be recorded officially as having some opposition to it. And I guess in the discussion, we should back up and ask for that discussion too.
Well, my concerns with this are, number one, that, this is a tree advisory commission.
Sure.
This is not the vegetation cover of the city of New Ulm commission. So, when you're looking at this thing, it's mostly grassland. And I also have some experience trying to do prescribed burning on this site, which is very difficult. And none of them have been successful. In the wording, did you bring that wording back up on the motion?
Yeah, I'm curious about that
Proposed motion?
too, Tom. There was no,
Recommend native and natural vegetation. Well, it's all natural vegetation. It's some of that natural vegetation that we don't like. But,
Like what, Tom?
pardon me?
Like what don't we like?
Well, if it's growing in Minnesota, pardon me, it's natural, right? It
could have
might
been
be an invasive species, but it's naturalized like
Oh.
reed canary grass.
Naturalized versus,
But, so that's my reasoning for not supporting this motion.
Tom, was there any intention of, because when we discussed this in January, Joe didn't have any, I think they discussed at that time,
And
no intention of burning or attempting to burn anything.
I feel like we're asking to support something that seems to have been put together already. You know, they said that volunteers have been working on this, but it would be nice to review this before we.
I just typed in a little slight modification of the verbiage that I think was left out. You know, the intent here is prairie restoration, prairie management, and
Well,
that
I would
was in
suggest
it.
that you strike prairie because is everything that's planted in the pollinator park by the volunteers so far native vegetation in the spot where they planted the butterfly garden?
My understanding is yes, but they're not
That's a
here.
question, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the reasons it's before the tree commission is that there's been a lot of tree growth and volunteer growth out there in what is, you know, presumed to be
That's
more of a
native
prairie.
vegetation, it's box elder, so.
Yeah.
Box elder is native from the time of the Native Americans grew here? I mean,
It's a native species in Minnesota.
okay.
From Joe's information last time, one of the concerns he had were the Siberian elms in the pollinator park and that they've migrated out. And that's what, when I looked at this, that was my interpretation, was that he wanted essentially permission to take those trees out from, that had spread from outside of there, so.
You know, I'm not opposed to
Yep,
manipulating the vegetation in the pollinator park. I'd just like to see what the program is before I says that I'm gonna support it or not support it.
Well, it's entirely up to the commission to make a decision on what they want to do at this meeting. And tabling it for more information from the pollinated group is a possibility, or it's in the chair's hands.
I think the support, as it said, and I'll look to either of the other commissioners if they wanted to change their vote or their mind.
I mean, I support what they're trying to do with, if they're gonna try and get Siberian elm off there, but I would be interested in more information forthcoming on what their practices are after that.
Let's put that in, amend it and be more specific about taking out those invasive trees. We'll specify it to that and then give them a push that way. And if they want to, I don't think there was an intention to do anything more with that, with trying to alter the prairie out there, but he was looking at getting rid of
Right.
those specific trees. So
Prescribed burning is illegal in the city limits, correct?
Pardon me?
Is prescribed burning illegal in the city because of the fire hazard?
Well,
That's what I've always been told.
the fire chief has been willing to sign off on permits if the people are doing prescribed burning
In the
have
city limits.
background in prescribed burning and are following a plan that's been put together. It's not so far. So,
But you're able to get a permit from the fire department if you know what you're doing?
well, the permitting authority in the city of New Ulm is the fire chief for open burning.
Well, that was the purpose of fires, you know, in the prairie before we were settled, is then the new stuff grew back, isn't good stuff, and it fed the wildfires were good, because they
sure.
sometimes.
You know, it's not that fire is a good or a bad thing, depending on what your frame of reference is. You know, if
Right,
if
right.
the grass around your house starts on fire and then that spreads to your house, it's probably for the homeowner a bad thing.
Right.
But a wildfire that burns on open areas under the wrong weather conditions can do a lot of damage to the vegetation, so.
But deliberate, isn't that against the law? And can you get a permit from the fire chief to do deliberate burning in the city of New Ulm? That's all I want to know.
Certainly, it's up to the fire chief.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to ask then, Ellen, if you wanted to, if you wish to amend the motion, and we'll re-vote on it or vote again on it, but just for good order's sake, are you content with the previous one, or would you like to amend your previous motion? What it was, as it had been printed, and Tom's altered a little, so I won't remember exactly what it said, but motion to manage the invasive tree species would be something that you might want to, if you so choose, if you want to amend that for clarity's sake.
Oh, see, I'm not, when I think of deliberate burning in the city limits, I don't think of burning trees. I think of burning, let's say, 2 acres of solid
Oh, no.
garlic mustard. Yeah.
But for the sake of our existing motion, or Tom, we just let it pass as it was?
Yeah, I can't.
That's a possibility, but I think, if you can come up with any verbiage that the 4 of you would agree to, from a, vegetation management in that part of the community, I think you're all very familiar with that area and what the attempt is. If you, some simple language that you might all 4 agree on. You're in the discussion phase too.
The primary reason that I don't support this motion is that I think we're being premature. We haven't seen what the proposal is to manage this, and that's the reason why I'm not in support of this at this time.
So we're talking, this is just about the area owned by the city where the pollinator park is, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And I cut out honeysuckle, but I didn't notice trees and how tall. I certainly wouldn't support, 6, 7, 8-foot oak trees being burned or, that kind of thing.
And I'll interject that it's not necessarily required that you take, definitive action here at this meeting. You've received some information. You can table action in hopes that the next meeting, more details and representation from that group are here to explain it to you, and it'll certainly be in the packet.
I know nothing about prairie grasslands, but they are being restored, but I have no idea how. That's way beyond any.
But one aspect that would certainly affect you is that there would be some tree removals taking place out there now. There's been a lot of tree development, tree growth in what I think has historically been more of a prairie biome in those parcels out there.
I must say, when I was asked to go out there, I didn't look specifically for buckthorn and just the honeysuckle. So I love to wander around city property and look for buckthorn and other invasives. So I'll educate myself.
No question, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Did the original motion pass?
Yes,
Yes.
it was voted on and passed, yes.
Okay, well, then we're there.
Then we're there. I'll request Tom, because his January request was about Siberian elms. So we're operating, that's what he's looking to remove, not any, what we would consider native trees or anything like that.
Correct.
Correct.
And we'd seek his input or more information if he's able to do that sometime this year. But
Is there a lot on boulevards in the city kind of spread around? Don't they have just this huge mass of the little round seeds? Siberian elm, I'm trying to
I'm not an expert on that.
Oh,
Yeah, I can't say for sure what
yeah, I think.
what is in the
they're- yeah,
inventory.
I'll look. Yeah. We know Siberia is not Minnesota.
And I don't know the origin of the Siberian elms out there, if that was
Yeah, I don't
an
either.
escaped
I don't know either, yeah.
planting or
Right, so
two.
even
So-
with this motion passing, I'm certain that Joe Gartner and his group of, his team of individuals will probably want to come to your next meeting to further explain. But thank you.
Okay. Any other new business from the floor?
Here, I brought my little cheat sheet. Siberian elm, the only effective way is to, how we do with buckthorn trees, cut them at the, down as far as you can go, which usually is no more than 2 inches, and then apply glyphosate to the cambium layer. Yeah, invades primarily disturbed habitat in old fields, crowding out native vegetation of prairies, oak savannas, and upland forests. That's pretty condemning.
And that was his first concern last time, and it was specific to that area, so.
Yeah, and it does have those millions of those little round seedlings.
Seeds.
Yeah.
Okay. Tom, anything else?
No, Chair.
Otherwise, the date of our next meeting is posted. May 5th would be the next meeting. With no further business, I declare the meeting adjourned.